Welcome to the Tea with April. Welcome to the Tea with April. Today, I'm going to start off a little expressing my emotions. I'm a little perturbed, perplexed, vexed at some of the latest news that we are literally watching in real time. It all stems from these ICE raids in Los Angeles, and then we've got the parade, uh, this parade in Washington, D.C. On Saturday. The weather is expected to rain in Washington, but anti parade protests will be happening all throughout the nation, about 1,600 protests. And the president said anyone who tries to prevent or stop or protest against that parade will be met with force. What is the definition of force, right? Then we have this big, beautiful bill, so many people are calling a big, ugly bill. We've got a lot on the table. And if you've seen right now, if you're watching TV and move over here and tell all your friends to come over, because we're going to knock the pot over again today. What just happened? A sitting U.S. Senator was tackled to the ground and arrested. As you hear my dog, he's hurting too about it. A sitting U.S. Senator was tackled to the ground and arrested because he wanted to talk to Kristi Noem, who was having a press conference. And at the end of the day, if the branches can't come together and talk, I'm talking about the executive branch and the legislative branch, if they can't communicate, where does politics lie? Politics is about people. And I got a whole slew of great people to talk to today that will break all of this down. They're going to knock the teapot over. First, we've got Keith Boykin. He's an author. He's also a Democratic strategist. And you watch him like I do on social media. He has some of the greatest clips that you've ever wanted to see. Then we have Cicley Gay, the head of Black Lives Matter Global Network. She's coming in because there's a lot. If you took a picture, there's a sepia tone view. If you turn your head, close your eye, there's a sepia tone view of some of the things that we've seen before in the past. I mean, recent past as well as things in the 50s and 60s. My poor dog is crying, y'all. He's upset too. And then we have Reverend William Barber coming on to talk about the morality of all of this, the protest that he's going to be attending Saturday. And also, we're going to talk Medicaid and Medicare with that big beautiful bill. Some people call it the ugly bill. But first, I want to bring in my dear friend, someone who I adore his mind and his thought process, Keith Boykin. Keith, hello. How are you? You are actually in Los Angeles. You've been covering this. You've been on the ground. Tell us about from yesterday to today. What's going on now?
Well, yesterday to today has been a dramatic series of developments. Um, it's interesting because Trump sent in the National Guard, and the Marines are allegedly here or coming here as well. But
Yes.
yesterday I was at the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, and I was at the Metropolitan Detention Center where detainees, allegedly immigrants, are being held. And I didn't see anything that warranted the need for National Guard troops or for Marines. There was a handful of people, maybe 50 or 60, at the Metropolitan Detention Center throughout the afternoon, and there's virtually no
Mhm.
one at the federal building. There were protests that were taking place throughout downtown Los Angeles yesterday, but they were mostly in other places near City Hall. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I was
Mhm.
there as well. Um,
Mhm.
but what that suggests to me is that we are spending $134 million in our government to fund these National
Wait a minute,
Guard troops.
134 million and counting. 134 million and counting.
Right. That's that we know of. That's according to the government's own number. So who knows? It could be larger, much larger than that. But we're spending that money to allegedly keep Los Angeles safe. And Trump says he claimed that Los Angeles would be on fire if it weren't for him. And it's just
Right.
completely disconnected from the reality. The area of the protest is about 1 square mile around downtown LA. government district, the civic center area. But the rest of Los Angeles continues as business as normal. Even downtown LA, if you live in downtown LA or work in downtown LA and you're not near the government buildings, you would have no idea this is happening, except for the fact that you see it on the news. And so the idea that LA is on fire or that there are riots in the city is just completely false, not true at all. That's a media distortion that has been contributed to by the Trump administration, by the MAGA people. And so what what has happened since that time is that the curfew that went in place 2 days ago, that it was issued by Mayor Karen Bass, it's been pretty effective at quelling any sort of late night protest or any sort of disruptions or violence. Not that there was a great deal of that in the first place. But now we have a U.S. Senator today, as you indicated,
Yes.
Senator Alex Padilla, who was at a press conference with Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, uh, and he essentially just tried to ask a question. And while he
Hmm.
asked the question, he was roughed up and taken out of the room and handcuffed and removed from the building. This is where we are now, and I think this is a disturbing turn of events. I mean,
Yeah.
this is fascism what we're witnessing here. You can't even ask a question to a government official, a member of Congress, a United States Senator from the state of California in his own state, can't even ask a question to a government official without being thrown out of the room and out of the building in handcuffs.
But Keith, I've got one better for you. And I think this is a trend that's happening. We were supposed to have Congressman Al Green on today, and we already talked to him, and we're going to have a separate moment with him. But I asked him about has he talked to Governor Abbott? Because Governor Abbott of Texas, and Al Green is Congressman of Texas, is bringing in National Guard on his own. Congressman Al Green says Governor Abbott has sent him a letter saying he's too busy, basically, essentially, to talk to him. So this is why you're getting a lot of these lawmakers going to the extreme, meeting them in these pressers because they are trying to protect and serve the people, and the government officials are not talking to them from the opposite party. So let's put that on the table. And then people who are on the chat, guys, I mean, they are already piling in. Guys, tell us what you feel. People are like, Padilla is a hero. People are saying they love you, Keith. They said, someone said, I heard the Marines still need to complete training on how to deal with protesters. And the way I understand it, the Marines are supposed to be there. Well, not the Marines, but all this military presence is supposed to be there for at least 30 days. And someone says, was Padilla arrested? Yes, Padilla was arrested. Someone just said, Abbott
Well,
is horrible.
technically, I saw Senator Padilla's press conference outside the building.
Mhm.
He says he was not. I mean, technically, he says he was not arrested. He was handcuffed and
And
removed.
roughed up, as you said. And yes, and
Yeah,
removed.
to me, I mean, I guess technically, arrest is a technical legal term that means that you are being placed under
Was he
arrest. But just
charged? Was he charged? Was he charged? That's
that,
what I guess they're trying to ask as well.
but this is part of a larger pattern that you're pointing out here. And I had forgotten about the first incident with Al Green, but there is an attack on members of
Yeah.
Congress and elected officials who are essentially trying to do their job. We've already seen,
Mhm.
like you said, Al Green was escorted out, was forced out of the not the State of the Union, but the joint session address to
In
Congress
the well of the
in
house. Yeah.
that was the beginning. Then we had just a few weeks ago, Mayor Ross Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, was arrested and charged
Yes.
outside an ICE center in his own district or his own city, and then the charges were later dropped because they were nonsense. Then we saw Representative LaMonica McIver, a
Yes.
Democratic member of Congress, also a black congressional Black Caucus member, who was
Hmm.
who's been charged now and indicted for the
Hmm.
crime of standing up
Hmm.
and defending herself and defending another member of Congress, Bonnie Watson Coleman, who was there just simply trying to do their job as the United States members
Yes.
of Congress. Then we see
Yeah.
that the President of the United States is threatening to arrest California Governor Gavin Newsom, which is an
That part.
extraordinary situation. And now we see the United States Senator from California, Alex Padilla, is harassed, targeted, beaten up, roughed up, and handcuffed in a press conference simply for asking a question. And Kristi Noem lies. She goes on national television on Fox News after this event and claims that some strange man rushed up against her, rushed up and didn't identify himself, and she had no idea what was going on. If you watch the video, within 10 seconds, 5, 10 seconds of his beginning to speak, he identifies himself as, I'm Senator Alex Padilla.
Yes, he
Before
does.
that,
Yes, he
he asked
does.
the question. All he does is he asks the question, why are you exaggerating? And as soon as he starts speaking, they harass him, they rough him up, and he identifies himself at that moment, and they escort him out. A U.S. senator.
So,
Escort is not
Keith,
even the
let
right
me say
word.
this.
They throw him out.
He was roughed up. He was thrown on the floor. Thrown on the floor. He's an elected official. He is serving in a co-branch with the president is one co-branch and Congress is another co-branch. And this is what I want everybody to follow me on this. There has been a disrespect. There has been such a disrespect of members of Congress and all other elected officials except for in that White House. And we saw this in January 6th. We saw the disrespect of congressional leaders during January 6th. So this should not be a surprise. And unfortunately, we're going through this. And I mean, you might say this is a stretch. I don't care if you think it's a stretch, but we are watching the disrespect of other elected officials who are trying to serve the public, to find out, to investigate on behalf of the American public what's happening at these detention centers. So it's really a hard case right now. And people have to understand this is real and in real time, and you matter. And this is some of the reason why a lot of people this is some of the reason why a lot of people, a lot of these civil rights leaders did not want people to go out and protest because of the provocation. It's going to grow higher and higher. And at the White House, Keith, yesterday, I was there in the briefing room. Caroline Levitt put up all these videos talking about there were fires, and this is why the National Guard was there. The fires didn't happen before the National Guard came. If I'm correct, am I correct?
The fires happened on Sunday. And it was on one block, on one street, near the building called El Pueblo de Los Angeles, which is where the city of Los Angeles was founded in 1781, by Black and Hispanic people, by the way. And there were 5 Waymo vehicles that were set on fire. I have a video of it. I saw it in person. I put it on my Instagram page. And so anybody can look at it if they want. But outside of that, there was no other fire that took place during the protest. And by the way, I mentioned this in another video I posted recently. There are fires that take place routinely, set by rowdy people after celebrations for football games and basketball games when teams win championships. And
That's true.
police handle those things. That's the job of police in the fire department. They know how to deal with rowdy crowds. You don't need to send in the National Guard and the United States Marines to deal with a local unrest. That is what is so dangerous about this escalation. Mind you, this is the same president of the United States who didn't do a thing, didn't lift a finger, sat in the
Mm.
Oval Office dining room for hours while the United States government was under attack on January 6th during an insurrection. So that's the irony that you're mentioning about members of Congress, that if you're a member of Congress and you ask a question to a Trump official or a Trump person, then you get harassed, beaten up, and thrown out. If you are a Trump person who attacks a member of Congress, however, you get a pardon for your crimes. That
Hmm.
to me is disturbing hypocrisy and irony about the fascism that we find ourselves in right now.
Keith, I adore your mind. I adore your reporting. Well, you're not reporting. You told me I'm not a reporter, but I love the facts that you throw out there on social. You are a friend. I know you personally, but you're a friend to us because you keep it real and you let us know what's going on. And I thank you because I gotta pivot to our next guest. But I want to thank you and let you know you are just everything. I appreciate you.
Thank you, April. Take care.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and keep us aware of what's going on out there. So, guys, we're getting ready to move over to Cecily Gay. She is the head of Black Lives Matter Global Network. But before we do that, we got a lot of listeners chiming in saying, um, enraged, Abbott is horrible, stay peaceful, handcuffed for asking a question. I just pray Paxton is not elected as next senator of Texas. What's up with Newsom? California is under attack by our own president. Racism and fascism. Mike Johnson is calling for Padilla to be censured. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I heard it with my own ears and saw it with my own eyes before we came out here. They are disrespecting Black and brown people only. Hmm. And that's a great segue into Cecily Gay. Cecily, hello. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, we talked to Keith about a lot in this moment, looking back. Let's go back even further. If we had a sepia tone picture, turned our head, closed one eye, I would think it's 1960s. I'm thinking of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I'm thinking of the fire hoses that stung the flesh. I'm thinking of the dogs that bit through the skin. I'm thinking of all of that. And watching these horses. How about that? Watching these horses, um, watching these horses beat people with batons. Watch these horses with the mounted patrol beating people with batons. And under the saddle, it said LAPD. And the LAPD already has a storied problem. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we know what's at stake. We've been here before. First, thank you, April. It's such an honor to be in conversation with you. I am a student of yours. It's not
Oh,
lost
thank you.
upon me that you've been required to speak truth to power in very public and scrutinized forums. And I've studied how you've moved with power and grace, and Keith as well, because you both understand the fierce urgency of now. And that's why I'm here, because we're at a moment where our silence is dangerous, right? And leadership means confronting these contradictions and making the cost of injustice impossible to ignore. I was looking at some of those photos, and you're right. In black and white, if you quiz someone, they wouldn't have been able to tell you what year it was. I sit in a
Right.
role that carries weight as the board chairwoman of Black Lives Matter, the Global Network Foundation. I want to be clear. I represent the large foundation that funds and fuels movements. And I came on board in 2022, but I also sit here as a mother and a strategist and someone who
Yes.
is, committed to not just resistance but resilience, right? So,
Wow.
so we're facing these political contradictions at every single level, attacks on truth and justice and dignity, while still being asked to show up and behave. And strategy is very important. But I think most of us know we can't just behave; we've got to build. And
Mm,
so I'm grateful for forums like this where we can figure out how to do this strategically. We all have a role. And what we're seeing right now is that people who are in positions of power would rather shatter than share. Um, and it is indeed, heartbreaking and enraging. I was just in LA. We were talking the other day. While I was in LA, you don't send the National Guard in to silence a cry for help. You send housing assistants and healthcare workers and care. Right?
yeah.
What's happening is not about safety; it's about control, and the people are seeing right through it.
So I want to pause for a moment and let this play out. The police video of LAPD on horses and batons. Guys, watch this. Okay, I think we're having a little technical difficulty. Um, okay, we'll be back to that video in a moment. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but my team will let me know when it's ready. Okay, because it's a big that's a big video. It reminded me, Cecily, of remember during the Biden years when the ICE patrol or the Border Patrol agents were on horseback and taking the
The
reins
Haitian,
and unbelting them,
yes,
the Haitians, and whipping them
yes.
with the reins. I know what a rein is now. I know what a horse is too. So it reminds me of that. So let's go to the video. I hear it's ready. Let's go to that video real quick. That is
Yeah.
awful. That is
It's
awful.
disgusting. I mean, it's fascinating when you hear the administration talking about violence and then you see a video like that that forces us to be really honest about what violence really is, right? And thank God we have the video. Tearing families apart in immigration raids at graduations is violent. Pointing rifles at
Yeah.
teens is violent. And the reality is, Black and Brown communities are always on the first line of fire when power flexes. We're criminalized, surveilled, displaced, and then we're told to be quiet, right? Black life is not a threat. We are the solution. So we have to keep saying that loudly. But what I also see in this video, and I've seen it a few times, and it didn't hit me until just now. I'm seeing fear, yes. I'm seeing the ugly nature of what happens when unchecked power is at play, but I see so much courage, April. Communities are organizing food drops and legal aid and watch groups. People are taking care of each other in the face of intimidation. And for me, that's real leadership. That's what love in action looks like. And that's why we have to stay together, have hope, and be encouraged as much as we possibly can, even through the midst of all of this chaos.
And let me say this for all of our viewers. Just like Keith, you were in Los Angeles this week. You were in Los Angeles for celebration of BET Awards. I watched it Sunday night for the celebration of Blackness, but I was also concerned with everything else going on. What did you see out there?
I didn't see much at all in terms of this kind of
Mm,
manufactured crisis. Of course, when I went to where the protests were, people were actively in the streets, but I didn't see agitation until Sunday when the National Guard started showing up and people began to have to frankly defend themselves. The reality is that there's a whole swath of the community that probably doesn't even know what's happening in Los Angeles. And so it's
mm,
very true that there's a manufactured crisis that the administration is creating so that they can create and this hype about how the National Guard is needed and now the Marines are needed. I mean, let's be real. The Marines were not sent in to de-escalate. That's not what they're trained to do. And so you're right. I didn't see it unless I went looking for it to engage. And this violence certainly wasn't coming from the behalf of the protesters, where we're certainly marching on the streets. I mean, you don't send troops to silence a cry for help, right? People were
right.
protesting their communities because they want us to address the root causes of their concerns. And all I'm seeing is the administration double down on fear tactics. That's what I witnessed in LA. I live in Atlanta. Have seen marches here, and I know this weekend they're going to be even more.
Wow. Are you going to be a part?
As much as I possibly can. Absolutely. I want to be in. I'm a mom. I happen to raise three Black sons in these United States of America. They're all in their 20s at this point now, and they very much hold me accountable. In terms of being present on the street, and I do the same for them. I sit in a position of leadership at a foundation, and for me,
Hmm.
strategy and infrastructure is what I lead with, but I can't do it without being
Hmm.
connected to people.
We got a lot of people who are chiming in. Someone said apartheid parallels.
Mm.
That's deep. Apartheid parallels. For those of you who know what apartheid is, you know. For those of you who don't know about apartheid in South Africa, Google it or chat GBT it, whatever you do, because that's a big deal. That is a big deal. But you know what? I see parallels. I see the beginnings of what happened in Lafayette Park in June of 2020 with George Floyd. Do you see this?
Talk about it. I mean, this isn't the first time the National Guard has been used against the people. It happened, yes, in DC after Floyd. It happened in Selma. And what's scary about this is we know what it looks like when the state responds to
Hmm.
pain with force instead of care. And that's why the
Hmm.
Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is expanding our work. We say often that we are here, yes, fighting against state sanctioned violence and against Black death, but also for Black life. So we are continuing to invest in Black life at the foundation in the US and abroad. We have to build, not just resist. But you're right, the parallels are quite evident. They create manufactured crisis and then introduce themselves as the solution, right? More pain and more degradation and more violence as the solution. But I believe that leadership has to look like love and community care. And that's not soft. It's strategic. And it's the way that we're going to create coalitions instead of conflict and hold one another close because we need us now more than ever.
Cecily, I want you to hear some of what people are chatting about from you and Keith. People are saying, don't let them provoke you, but don't be scared that you don't attend protests. That's a big deal. Um,
That's that
someone
part.
says, not, yeah, someone said 1963 all over again. Trump equals violence. Everyone must be on the street to protect and serve WHO, who um, they are trying to tap down black, brown, and democratic states. Can we trust the mainstream media?
Whew.
It
You
all
know,
depends.
I really,
Which media? Go ahead.
yeah, I appreciate what that listener said about attacking multiple states because we're seeing Los Angeles on the news right now, but LA isn't random. That's strategic too. It's a testing ground strategy. They are targeting a sanctuary city with a strong organizing infrastructure as a testing ground, but Baltimore, Chicago, DC, any city that protects vulnerable residents could be next and will be next.
Oakland,
That's right.
California. This administration, for whatever reason, doesn't like California, and it just got a black mayor by the name of former Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Her title is
That's right.
Congresswoman. Her former title was Congresswoman, but her name is Barbara Lee. She's the new mayor of Oakland, California, where the Black Panther Party was formed. Okay. Then someone
That's right.
says Trump only wants
We just
yes.
invested $1 million in in a housing development out in Oakland, right now.
Wow.
And you know, when you talk about California, I mean, Black Lives Matter, the Global Network Foundation, we're a nonpartisan organization, and
Hmm.
like I mentioned, I was just in LA, and so there's been a lot about what's happening in terms of the politicians there, both the mayor and the governor, and I gotta say, I mean, we're holding all of them accountable. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen Newsom take action right now, and I'm not going to ignore that and appreciate that. But as a
Hmm.
nonpartisan organization, we recognize that one good move doesn't erase a whole pattern, right? And so we have to remember as communities who's standing with us and who doesn't, even when it's politically risky. Calling out Trump right now is easy, but what we're challenging all politicians, black, brown, and otherwise, to stand with our immigrant lives and our communities every single day. That's real leadership.
All right. We're going to hear more from you. I want you back, okay? I want you and Keith back, okay? Because you
Yes.
guys, yes, I would love to have you back, Cecily, because you're on the pulse and you were there and you know what's going on. And I want to thank you for joining in. I've got to bring in someone else, but thank you so much for coming, and I
Thank you for
appreciate you.
having me. I'm going to keep leading with love and stick together and invest in our community through this. We need each other now more than ever.
Yes.
Thank you, April, for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Cecily Gay, the head of Black Lives Matter Global Network. Guys, it's been a lot today. It's been a lot this week, and more is happening. And I want to bring on, without any further ado, Reverend William Barber. He's the head of Repair of the Breach, Moral Mondays. I mean, he's one of my favorite people. I mean, he just talking to him, it's like a sermon, that it's medicine that you didn't know you needed. Okay, so in this moment, as we are watching the atrocity,
Mhm.
um the overreach in California, in Los Angeles, and now the roughing up, the handcuffing of an active senator, an active US senator, Alex Padilla, at a press conference with Christy Nome. And now we're going into this celebration of 250 years of the US Army on Saturday. We've got all these military trucks and tanks,
Mhm.
dozens of them coming into Washington, D.C. for the 250th anniversary of the US Army, that also happens to fall on President Trump's birthday.
Mhm.
We've got
Mhm.
Reverend William Barber here. He's going to be protesting this, what do you call it, No King's Day parade. It's called No King's Day. It's a protest against the parade. He's going to be in Philadelphia. So, Reverend Barber, can you put all of this in perspective in this moment, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, April. I'm glad you're having this conversation, and it also means we have to take a moment and ask the question why. So, what
Mm,
we see with Trump and MAGA is fear. It's as old as Pharaoh getting afraid of the people and turning the military on them in the Bible. It's as old as Pilate and Herod getting afraid of Jesus and his organizing and turning the military on them. It's as old as in South Africa. You know, they had a quote. They said, "Only a dying mule kicks the hardest." And so, at the very time apartheid, the anti-apartheid forces were about to win, the pro-apartheid forces got worse. So think about Trump. He's losing in the polls. He's getting worse in the polls. His bill, big, ugly, deadly, destructive bill, is in trouble on all sides. They don't. All of them are just turning on each other. And he wants a distraction. He wants a Kim Jong type parade to himself, and he wants a distraction. So what does he do? He says, "I'm going to reverse how the National Guard is usually used." In the 1960s, the Guard went in to protect the people from the racist police. Now he's sending it in to turn on the people. And April, there are a couple of things about that. Even the soldiers are going to have to make some decisions, because there are some rules that say they don't have to do. I'm not telling them what to do, but about unlawful orders. The army and the armed services are supposed to be a shield for foreign forces. They're not supposed to turn on the people. That's not their role. But Trump is trying to distract from everything else. Now, and the second thing, April, is when we talk about this violence, we just saw this congressperson, senator arrested. You know, prior to the Civil War, there were fights on the floor of the halls of Congress. People were beaten with canes. This is not like something new in American history. It's a regurgitation, if you will, of some very ugly parts of our American reality. We're investigating now that one of the people said to a pastor, "This whole country belongs to us." And we're looking into that now in our particular church denomination, something that happened at one of our churches in relationship to somebody in one of these National Guard units. So we're going to see more of this. Now, here's last two things now on this. You can't make it. I would not. I'm not joining those that say don't go out and black folks stay home. You must go, but you must be disciplined, and it must be ordered, and it must be within a nonviolent context. The senators now need to go back. They don't need, because the goal of neo-fascism is to do something to shut you down, particularly when they know your voice and your word is winning. Particularly when they know that the people are starting to get the message. And so this is not the time to stand down, it's the time to stand up, but it's the time to stand up in a very smart way. Imagine, what if our foreparents had stood down when they were beaten on the Pettus Bridge? What if Harriet had stood down? I mean, some people are saying, well, it's tough today. And
We
I had to
wouldn't
say to
be here.
somebody, right. I had to say to somebody, come on now. Our people went through worse than this. This is the beginning. People died for us to have them. I'm not suggesting folk ought to try to get killed, but the point is, the last thing people who believe in a democracy and love and justice should do in the face of tyranny is stand down. Because if you
So,
stand
so,
down, that only makes them stand up. Yeah.
so Reverend Barber, I want to pause for a moment as you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
standing down. President Trump has basically threatened the protesters coming this
Sure.
Saturday. I want us to let's watch this video, okay? As everyone is planning on going out to protest in these 1,600 locations around the world, okay? I want you to
Mm-hmm.
watch this video.
Big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester who wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
That's fear.
They will
That's
be
fear
met with
talking.
very heavy force.
Right. But that's fear. And he's saying if you come out there while they're doing what they're doing in Washington, D.C., you'll be met for. First of all, if there is protest, it should be nonviolent, structured, and ordered. Second of all, this man does not have a right to undo the Constitution. We have a right to the freedom of assembly. So when tyranny, see, the only way a person can be a king is you have to bow to it. You have to bow to it. He's talking, now if people should not just go out willy nilly, but standing up in an organized way. That's why in Philadelphia and all these other places, we're not going to stand down because he said that. But our focus is also organized and structured and planned and clear and truthful and rooted in nonviolence. This is a struggle of civilization. And
So
despots
let's
always want to say, make you stand down. They always want to do that.
So you say we have a right to freedom of assembly, but we also have a right to due process. And you go out there. I'm being a devil's advocate, right?
Sure, sure,
As a parent, I'm as a parent too,
sure,
because I got kids who like to go out and
sure,
protest. They went out and protested
sure,
for George Floyd in the middle of COVID,
sure,
and I was scared. But their
sure.
passion for it made me say go. I threw all the
Right,
caution against the wind. We didn't even have a vaccine then. But
right,
now you disappear and nobody knows where you are. And my kids were born here. My kids are
right.
African American. They're little brown
Well,
kids. What do we
right.
say to our children, who want to go out and protest in the midst? And even
Well,
our cousins or our dads or our neighbors.
well, I'm going to say join us in Philadelphia. Join us in individual. Join us in something that's structured and planned and organized. That listen in the civil rights movement. They threaten them with everything. They filled up the jails. I mean, there comes a point that you have to say, I'm not going to give up my citizenship and my right to nonviolent action. And guess what? If we allow people to operate individually, then they are at risk alone. But if all of us stand,
Hmm.
if there's a massive nonviolent stance, you can't arrest you. That might that their tactic in the '60s was fill up the jail, fill them up singing and praying. Trump is running his mouth. In fact, at some point, you almost have to make a despot own their words. And you remember when he wanted the general, when he was the first president, and he tried to get the general to do something. When he had the Bible upside down, and he wanted
Oh yeah, that
he
was
had the
June
general.
2020 for George Floyd, the
Okay,
George Floyd
right,
protests
right,
in front of the White House, and the
right.
protesters were pepper sprayed. Yeah.
But remember, Trump wanted more, and in that moment, the general said
Right.
no.
Nope.
In every moment of history, there are these moments like this. The last thing we could do in this country is allow a president to have a king's day, and a military parade honor himself, and the rest of us just sit home. Now, I'm not
Mm.
saying you got to go out in the middle of hit that parade where they're going to have the tanks. You don't have to do that. But where protest is, Philadelphia, we're having 1,500 of them across this country and the world. Find a place. Be with the people. Be with the people. There's a sense that we say forward together, not one step back. I'm not saying be foolish, but also we have to be faithful. Now, let me tell you why I say you said I give sermons sometimes.
Yeah, okay, but I
You
love
know,
them. It's the medicine.
okay. So let me get it. So we talk about say black life, right? Do you know how many black folk are gonna die if this bill is passed? This big ugly budget. How
Let's
many
talk
black
about that.
people? How many black people are going to die? The one study is already saying 51,000 people will die the first year if 13 to 14 million people are taken off of Medicaid, and that doesn't even include the folk that will be impacted because they lose SNAP, they don't have living wages, so forth and so on. This is a deadly piece of legislation that's going to have a 10-year effect. Now we've got a choice. Do we let it ride and just wait around till we get the next majority? Or do we stand up and protest? They told us when we went into the rotunda, they said, you can't go in the rotunda and pray. We said, why can't we? Well, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. We went, we prayed, they arrested us, but guess what? We're still here and people are still coming. All of this talk that Trump, and I'm not saying that you don't have to be concerned about it, but we either are going to challenge the deadly stuff that's going on, or we're not going to challenge. And in this moment, we have to be focused, we have to be thoughtful, we have to be nonviolent, but we have to be committed, and we must mobilize and show resistance, both in the streets, in the pulpits, in the courtrooms, in the conference rooms, and in the pulpits, and at the voting block next year. We cannot stand down. So here's the story. In the Bible, there was a king who loved to put his name on buildings and wanted everybody to bow to his statue. You know what I'm saying? And there were 4 young people, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego,
And
3 of them.
Bendigo. Yeah,
And they used to say, and a bad Negro. That's what they used to say
I know,
in
I
my church.
know.
All right. And the king said this to them. He said, he said, you better bow to me. They said, we can't do that. He said, you better bow. Then he said, do you think your God can deliver? They said, sure, our God can deliver. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow. And when they refused to bow, they were thrown in the fire. But a fourth force came and assisted them. I believe that fourth force is still around and present.
Yeah,
And that means we have to stand in this moment. We don't stand with guns. We don't stand with violence. We don't have to throw bricks and things at people, but we need to stand in our humanity, black, white, brown, Asian, Native American, whatever color, whatever gender, whatever religion. In this moment, we have to plant our feet and stand, and we have to declare no kings, and we will not bow.
so people are just blowing up our chat line, and I need you to hear some of this. Someone said,
Mm-hmm.
I call it the billionaire bonus bill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then Trump only wants yes men. They want martial law. This is a nation of 300 million. They can't lock us all up.
Right.
California is the 4th largest economy. California is the 4th largest economy in the world. Someone said, Queen April, exclamation, thank you. And someone said, I love Reverend Barber. Thank you, I do too. Trump is disrespecting the military by trying to turn them into tools. We cannot be spectators. We must participate. Forgive me, close your ears, Reverend. Big BS bill. I'm scared, but still going, exclamation point. Coke has disowned him, talking about Koch brothers has
That's right.
disowned President Trump. April, you
He's
should want the what'd you say?
he is what he's doing is a sign of his fear. That's why he's trying to distract. That's what neo-fascists do. And by the way, April, I'm glad the one person that said you can't arrest all of us. See what despots expect is they do something to one person and then that's going to make the rest of us stand down. Do you remember when in Brazil, the lady, I forget her name, she was shot and killed. She was a councilwoman over there, and she was very, very, very powerful. She was shot and killed. And the forces in Brazil, the president at that time thought, I guess they thought killing her was going to make it stand down. The next day, 150,000 people in the street. You just, that's not our history to stand down when somebody's trying to take over. In fact, the Declaration of Independence actually says this. It says that when there has been a long train of abuses, it is the right and the duty of the people to throw off that government, to challenge it. That's right in the heart of the Declaration of Independence. This
We the
nation,
people.
we the people. And so, but you don't be foolish. Again, you don't meet violence with violence, because no need to try to stop somebody with violence that specializes in violence. But what you do is specialize in nonviolent, consistent, courageous, truthful, and moral, disciplined protest. And then finally, I want to say this, April, to your listeners. One of the things I keep sharing with folk is stop acting as though this stuff is new. What Trump is doing with deportation, Eisenhower tried the same thing with Operation Wetback, and it failed.
Woo! Talk about it.
He tried the same thing. He wanted to get a million Latinos out after we had used them in the various wars and all of their expertise and all of their work, and he wanted to put them on barges and go down the Mississippi River, and that failed. So we're talking about people who continue to hold on to a failed past. They want to, for some reason, what they really are afraid of, I think, is 2035. I've been asking myself, why is this
Yes, the
bill 10
browning of
years?
America.
That's
The
it.
browning of
That's it.
America.
That's it. And this is what they're fearing about, that is the browning of America with progressive white folk and others joined in. Dr. King said in 1965, at the end of the march from Selma to Montgomery, I think these are the words that probably made the forces really want to get rid of him. He said, he told the story of the first Reconstruction and how black and white populists came together in the 1800s and changed the South, and they were on their way to do it, and except for violence, turned it back beginning in 1877. But King said the greatest fear of the greedy oligarch in this country is for the masses of Negroes and poor whites and labor and Latinos to come together and form a voting bloc that can fundamentally shift the economic architecture of the country. That's the greatest fear. And if it's their greatest fear, we ought to actualize it.
And that's what's happening now. That's what's
Exactly.
happening now with this boycott on Target and Dollar General and all of this stuff. The black buying power is almost $2 trillion in this nation. Look at what happened with the Montgomery bus boycott. It was well over a year, but it made an impact and changed laws. And
381
I'm gonna
days.
tell yeah, and
300.
what people need to understand is a lot of these movements start slow and gain a lot of momentum. And Reverend Barber, you know this. Dr. King, when he first started, and Reverend Jesse Jackson told me this many years ago. Dr. King only had 4% of black churches at the very beginning. It took a
Sure.
long time to rev up. So, guys, the process gives great
But
rewards, but it takes a moment. It takes a
But he
moment.
didn't.
It
But he
takes a
didn't have
moment.
20. He didn't have 20% at the end. We have these misnomers about history, like
Mhm.
everybody showed up and everybody. That's not the history. It's always a remnant. But here's the thing I want to say, April, and I've supported and been a part of the target and focus on the corporation. But in this moment, if we target the corporations and don't target the government, we're missing it, because what they're doing is they want to take this bill and totally
Mhm.
rewrite government. They want to cut $2 trillion, give it back to the greedy who don't need it. That's more money transferred from poor and working folk since chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is
Wow.
the only place you had a bigger transfer. And in addition to that, April, lastly, they want to close down the services that we won through the civil rights movement, and they want to
Uh-huh.
fund 10,000 more ICE officers. They want to fund more military. This bill is a death nail
The
to
big,
black
beautiful bill.
and brown people. The big, ugly, deadly, destructive bill. I refuse to call it the name that they call it. I just can't do it because it's just not true. But here's my point. I heard somebody say black folk ought to stand down because the bill is just going to hurt white people. Let me tell you something. You better get around some
White
good
people gonna hurt in
statisticians.
this.
No, what they were saying was black folk ought to stand down on fighting against the
Oh,
budget because
all
primarily
right.
because white people be hurt. Let me tell you, this budget
But black
is
people gonna
going to
hurt
hurt
too.
because black people on Medicaid, 60% of black people are poor and low wage. I mean, black people
Yes.
are on SNAP. We're not the majority, but with that. So let's stop talking about, in that sense, who needs to let who suffer, and recognize that this big, ugly, destructive, deadly bill actually has the potential to unite us together in a fight to push back against what we see happening.
So, Reverend Barber, we got more people. I want to get to the chat because
I
we got a
know.
lot of people on here, and they want to. And I want to get to the chat real quick. Someone said, April, you should be on the contrarian every day. Okay, thank you for that. With Reverend Barber and uh, Keith Boykins and
Right.
Cecily Gay. Also, it says it's the Project 2025 bill. Full stop. That part.
That's
They're
true.
robbing the poor. They're robbing the poor to feed the rich. They're absolutely right. We need to stay strong. No divine right. When will the courts act? There are a lot of legal battles, guys, right
Well,
now that you're not hearing about. We're trying. Keep watching the Contrarian. We're talking about them. I've been bringing people on. There are a lot of legal battles, and there have been some wins, but a lot of people in other media organizations don't put those out. So I'm trying. Just keep watching because we're talking about it. Is 40 number 47 going to wear a special uniform for his parade? Who knows? Call the GI Rights Hotline for free info on U.S. military regulations. No kings allowed! Exclamation. We have to keep having protests even after June 14th. Republicans in
Sure.
Congress are allowing Trump to play dictator. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing.
That's
Courage.
right.
And the Republicans have been planning to take over for years.
That's
Guys,
right.
thank you
Well,
for these comments and thank you for showing up. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna make my last comment, and this I'm gonna say it facetiously, but it's very serious. You know the question that the Cowardly Lion and Wizard of Oz asked: what makes the bees buzz? Courage. And in this
Courage.
moment, it's courage, and particularly for people
Courage.
of faith, whether they're Jewish, Christian, Muslim. Our faith calls us in moments like this. Faith is not for the sunny days; it's for the days like this when you have to stand
Mm.
up and. And then finally, somebody said you got to keep protesting. On June 30th, we're going back for Moral Monday in DC, right in front of the Supreme
June
Court.
30th. So that's faster than
June
July
30th.
7th. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So we're telling folks, join us. You don't have to go in the rotunda and pray and risk arrest, but be a witness. Come out there. If you're impacted, come out there. Come out there on June the 30th, right in front of the Supreme Court at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, get there early by 10 o'clock because it's growing. Hundreds and hundreds of people came. And the last time we were there, April, this is the courage we must have. And I'll close here. Looking at this budget and how deadly it is, there were two people in North Carolina that saw our first Moral Monday. One is a quadriplegic named Sloan. Another one was a woman with cerebral palsy. They called us and said, we can't let folks stand up for us. We're coming to the next Moral Monday. There were 9 of us arrested the last time for praying, but they arrested Cheryl with her Bible in her hand in her wheelchair with cerebral palsy. And we said to her, sure, you don't have to. She says, no, I have to do this. And she said in the paper today, I would do it again. She said, and everybody that deals with Medicaid that can, you need to come and make the nation see you in this moment. Don't let them do this and push you to the dark. There's a level of courage that I'm seeing that people are exhibiting that's going to get bigger and stronger. They are going too far. Pride always precedes the fall. Pride
Yes, it do.
always precedes the fall. And so June 30th, I'm going to be in Philadelphia on this coming Saturday with my good friend Ezra Klein and Indivisible. It's going to be
Where
people of
where
every
in
race.
Philly? Where in Philly?
The big stage is right there where the on Ben Franklin Park, where the Rocky statue and the library,
Oh,
the
at the
Arts Museum.
library. At the library.
That's right. That's right. That
Or
big
the museum.
road.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So be there. It starts. It's go online, but I know it's around 1 o'clock. And then
Hmm.
on the 30th, join us in Washington D.C. Tomorrow Mondays, it's going to continue, and continue. Clergy that's out there, it's time. It's time for you. And we're saying to clergy, do like Bishop Tutu and them did in this part. Put on your robe, put on your prayer cloth, be conspicuous. If somebody's going to arrest
Mm.
you for praying, let it be shown that you are a clergy person standing with impacted people. We're not going to get arrested. We're going to arrest the attention of the nation. But what we said to them was, if McConnell, who has had worship services in the rotunda, so it's not that prayer is wrong in the rotunda, it's the kind of prayer. But what we've said, if they're going to order us to be arrested for praying, we're not going to stop praying. Who's going to stop praying? Because that means I'm not just bowing to man. That means I'm walking away from God. And nobody gets to make us walk away from God. So join us on the 30th. Stand up wherever you can. Find you an indivisible rally this Saturday and be there. Be there and stand up. As we say, no kings and no bowing.
Mm. Reverend Barber, someone just said our cause is righteous. Once again, Reverend Barber will be in Philadelphia June 14th with Ezra Levin at 1 p.m. Ezra Levin, June 14th, and Moral Mondays is back. He actually, last week we talked and he said it was going to be July 7th, but he brought it back
Right.
faster. June
That's right.
30th, Moral Mondays in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Get there before 10 o'clock. Reverend Barber, I'm just going to tell you thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are awesome. And thank you. You showed up for
You
me.
said,
And I
and
thank you.
listen, you showed us how to have courage, Abe. So part of this is your fault because when you were in the White House
I'm
and
still in
and
the
and
White House.
I know it, but I'm saying when you were there that time and things were said to you and you didn't flinch as a black woman and you had planted your feet, people said, I want to be like that. And we need to say, let me tell you, if no people haven't, thank you for that. We got you. The thing that moved most of us was you did not flinch. Whatever they did, you didn't flinch. And this is a moment that we can't flinch. If we believe in
Mm,
truth, love, justice, and democracy, this is a moment that we cannot flinch and we cannot bow. Bless your
this
heart.
I need.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Take
I
care now.
needed this today. Thank you, everyone. I needed this today. I needed Reverend Barber. I needed Keith Boykin. I needed Cicely Gay. I mean, to watch what we're watching in real time is painful. Yeah, I'm a news person, but I'm human too. Humanity has its place in this moment, and we have to remember that. So I want you to follow all the people that I've talked to. Keith and Cicely Gay, Keith Boykin and Cicely Gay were out in LA. And I want you guys to follow them because they have some really good stuff going on. And Reverend Barber, you know he's out there. So what are you going to do this weekend? That's what I want to know. What are you going to do this weekend? This is not a time to be complacent. This is not a time to be quiet. Make your voice heard. Make your presence known. Let your federal lawmakers and your state lawmakers know how you feel. Because if you don't complain. Don't complain. And I want you to know my interview with Reverend Al Green is on, not Reverend Al Green, Lord have mercy, with, well, he's a judge, but he's so peaceful, with Congressman, Democratic Texas Congressman Al Green is on the site now. You can look at that. I'm telling you, today we've been rolling. This is a big moment in history. You are a witness. Where do you stand in this moment? Guys, thank you for sharing this hour. We're only supposed to be like a half an hour, maybe 15 minutes. We knocked the pot over in a whole hour. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your attention. Join us next week. Next week is Juneteenth. I don't want to say who we possibly have, but we got a big one. So take care, honor yourself. Don't take too much in, I'm telling you, because you have to find your peace. I'm on my back porch. This is my peace because I can't watch it. I can't take it all in, especially after I write it and talk to people. Find your peace and then go back to fight. Thank you for joining me and the contrarian and the tea with April. I got to learn how to hold my cup. Thank you guys. And I want to thank my husband for getting me, my lovely husband for getting me this. He supports me everywhere I go. The tea with April. See you next Thursday at 5 o'clock. The tea was good. Take care. Bye, everyone.